Hi, I'm Mark Eastman from Chef's Haven. We're going to prepare a very simple shrimp dish. This is a barbecued shrimp. It's not your typical barbecued shrimp. It doesn't have any barbecue sauce in it. It's actually made with good old-fashioned Worcestershire sauce. Originated from New Orleans. So what you want to start off with is go ahead and peel your shrimp. Make sure they're nice and dry. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put together a little spice mix, urban spice mix. And we're going to use a little dried oregano, dried thyme, dried basil, paprika, cayenne pepper, salt, and pepper. And what you want to do is place that in a bowl, and then depending on how spicy you want it, you're going to add that amount of spice to it. I like mine pretty spicy, so we're going to go ahead and add a lot of spice to it. What you want to do is just mix that around. Make sure they're really well coated. Once again, you want to make sure that your shrimp is very dry. You want the spice mix to hold really well to your shrimp. You don't want them splashing around in the pan and splattering back at you. So we're just going to let the shrimp sit in that spice mix. Like I said, you want them nicely coated like that. You can even add more spice if you really like it spicy. Next, we're going to prepare our shallots and garlic. Like I said, this is a very quick and simple dish. Only takes a couple of minutes to prepare. Just a little bit of minced shallot. At the end of this video, you'll be able to find the ingredients for this dish. So our shallots, you want to make sure you don't over chop your shallots either. What happens is they start to release all their liquid and then they'll get really funky. Next, we've got our garlic. Give that a little. I usually start it off on high or medium high just so we get a nice sear. If you don't have your pan hot enough, what's going to happen is you're just going to bleed out all the liquid from your shrimp. You're not going to get any nice sear from it, and then they're going to become overcooked and dried out. You don't want overcooked and dried out shrimp. Next, we got a couple tablespoons of oil. I like to use grapeseed oil because it has a lot of smoke content, or it doesn't burn. If you wouldn't want to use extra virgin olive oil on something like this because it does burn very easily. So you want to make sure your pan's good and hot. I always blow into it because then I can feel the heat come back to my face, and it kind of gives me an idea how hot it is. I don't like to put anything in the pan like water or oil or anything until I know that pan is hot. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our oil. Then we're going to add our shrimp. You wouldn't want to add your garlic and shallots right in the beginning because they're going to just burn in there. So we don't want them to burn. And then we're going to add Worcestershire sauce, cold butter. You want to make sure your butter is good and cold when you add it to this dish. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to finish this sauce with the Worcestershire sauce and some fresh lime juice. Now with your limes, what you want to do is make sure you roll them a little bit. You're going to get a little more juice out of them. What it does is breaks the segments up in the lime. And then we go ahead and juice it. This is a great little juicer. So now I think our pan is good and hot. And we've got our ingredients all together. You want to make sure that you have all your ingredients together before you start this dish because it goes so fast. You don't want to be running back and forth to the refrigerator or your pantry when this is good and hot. Okay, now that our pan is hot, go ahead and add our oil. You can see the oil is nice and smoking hot. That's what we want. Go ahead and place your shrimp in there. I'm not going to throw them all in all at the same time because I don't want to cool that pan down. You want the pan to stay nice and hot because you want to get a nice color on these shrimp. So just do as many as you think you can handle at a time. I'm going to go ahead and throw them all in there. This is just enough for 2 appetizers. You can see how we're getting a nice color on that shrimp. You want to get a nice browning on that shrimp. Go ahead and turn that temperature down a little bit. One at a time at this point, but once we get them flipped, we can start moving the pan around a little bit. If it gets too hot, go ahead and take your pan off the heat. Don't be afraid. Now we can go ahead and add our shallots and garlic. Once that's in there, we'll give that a little toss. Let them sweat out for just a minute. Alright, now at this point, we can go ahead and add our lime juice and our Worcestershire sauce. About 4 tablespoons of Worcestershire, believe it or not. Seems like a lot, you think it'll be really spicy, but it actually turns out pretty sweet when you get all done here. Go ahead and turn your heat back up. Now that that's cooled the pan down, you want to make sure you turn the heat back up. And we're just going to let that reduce for a couple of, not even a couple of minutes, maybe 30 seconds or so. Let that reduce down. Now you see I didn't add any salt and pepper. Reason being, I already had salt and pepper on our dry spice mix. So we didn't need to add any more. We will adjust the seasoning at the end, if need be. Get our cold butter. And at this point, we're going to slowly add our cold butter, 1 tab at a time. And this is going to make our sauce get a little creamy. It's going to emulsify in with that sauce. Turn our heat down a little. See how that sauce is starting to thicken up. And add as much butter as you like. You don't want to add too much, or the sauce will start to break on you. But what's helping that butter stay together is that acid from your lime and also the Worcestershire sauce. Adding the butter is going to make it nice and creamy and sweet. You want to use butter with this, and make sure you're using unsalted butter. You want this to be exceptionally salty. If you use salted butter, it's going to be too salty. So that's our finished dish. What we're going to do now is you can serve this over rice as an entree if you wanted to, but what we're going to do is actually we're going to serve this with some bread, because there's nothing like swapping that sauce up with some bread. So we just have some toasted Italian bread here, bread on the side too, because that's never going to be enough. So we go ahead and plate our shrimp. Now you could serve this in a bowl as well. It's just a little prettier if you serve it on a plate. If your sauce starts to break on you, you could add it, put it back on the stove, maybe add a little more lime juice to it, or you can even add a little white wine to it, just a splash, and that would bring your sauce back together again. There you have it. There's our shrimp. Here's our sauce. We're going to put a little more sauce on there. And then we're going to add a little garnish. It's nice to have some fresh herbs around for a garnish. Now you want to use dry herbs and spices for your dry mix, for your dry rub actually on your shrimp, because they're not going to burn when you put it in the pan like that. And then you can use fresh herbs at the end for garnish, which I have here. Got a little fresh oregano and some little micro purple basil. And there you have it. Barbecued shrimp, New Orleans style.